Have you ever wanted a garden in your backyard? Have you ever wanted a year-round garden? Well, hey, I'm Jen, and I have been gardening for many years, and I actually started with a year-round garden. So I have plenty of tips and tricks for you on starting that year-round garden today. So the biggest tip I have for you is to prepare. Spend time planning out your garden, spend time making your garden, and you're gonna have so much more success if you just put the time in advance before the spring comes. Now that could be summertime, fall, or even wintertime. I always prepare in the winter because my winters are very mild. I'm in zone 8, 9, and I can still work the ground. It feels good outside. It usually doesn't freeze until January, and it is just a delight to be outside. In fact, right now it is December and I am loving this temperature. One thing that my husband Sean always says is that the today Sean is helping the tomorrow Sean. And what he means by that is that he is preparing for the future. He's setting himself up for success. And that's exactly what I want you to do with your garden. So the first thing I would say that you really need to do is find a good local resource. So a long time ago, someone actually gave me this book, sat on my shelf, and when I moved to this house and I was able to garden, I busted it out and started my first year-round garden. So I don't live in Houston. I live an hour outside of Houston, and I'm using a Houston reference book. And that's one thing that you can do for yourself if you live in a small town, or if you live in the country, or if you live in the middle of nowhere. You can find a reference book on gardening that is in the closest city. So that's what I have done, and it's worked great. I have adjusted a few things here and there. I would say for the most part, this has been highly beneficial. It is a local resource. It's by someone who has spent their life gardening and has so much more information than I personally do. So this was extremely helpful. Find something local. So you can look at your universities, you can see if there's a professor in gardening, or you can go to a farmer's market and you can try to find that farmer that is selling the produce and see if they don't have classes on gardening. See if you can't learn from that person. And so those are two suggestions that I have for you. So this is an extremely helpful resource to me. It has the crops, and it has how to seed them and the dates. And that is these are the pages that I use so very often, and it's kind of falling apart. So find yourself a precious resource. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is plan. You're gonna use that precious resource and you're gonna make a calendar for yourself. Let me show you some that I have made for myself. This year, my new garden bed is a victory garden. If you don't know what that is, during World War II, there were victory gardens to offset the food shortages in America and in Europe. And so I found a vintage article, and I am trying to grow what they would have grown during World War II. So this is my victory garden plan. And this is one of the articles that I based it on. But I wanted to show you my planning, not necessarily exactly how to make this victory garden. I have when to harvest, when to seed, and in every month I have labeled them like this. And then I have what to do every day or every other day, every so often in my victory garden. I have what to seed, what to harvest. I like putting when to harvest on my calendar. You would think, oh, I don't need to write that down, but it gives me an idea of when I'm going to plant my next crop, and also when to harvest, because sometimes I get caught up doing something else and I may forget to harvest something, and then it's just kind of sitting there and it's getting bigger and less tastier. So that's something that I wrote to help myself. It's organized by the month and tabs. So all I do is turn to the month that I'm in and see what I need to do. Let's see. All right, And this here binder is a little bit thicker and bigger. It's for my 10-bed garden system. It's organized a little bit different. It has, it's organized by the bed. So in my first bed, I have all the seeds and the plan behind it. And I'm actually going to add a calendar to this so that I can see quick glance what needs to be done in January, February, March, April, June, continuing. So another thing that people ask me is, when do I start my spring garden? And I always say now, because if you're in spring, you need to start it now. You're late, you need to you need to work on it right now. If you're in summer, you can start that garden for next fall or spring, depending on where you live. Same with the fall and same with the winter. Now, if you're up north in the winter and you can't move the ground and the dirt is frozen, that's a different story. But here in Zone 9, we don't have that problem. So a lot of, when friends come up to me and ask when they can start a garden, I say now. So the biggest tip I have for you is to start a garden bed today. The way we're gonna start that garden bed is we're gonna lay down cardboard, rim it out with wood, firewood, rocks, cinder blocks, whatever you got. I'll show you some choices. And then we're gonna fill it in with soil. And it doesn't necessarily have to be super amazing soil. It could just be garden soil. It could be soil from another part of your yard. It doesn't have to be special. Now, I use garden soil, a 50-50 mix of garden soil and compost that I get from a trusted source. You always wanna get your soil from a trusted source. My father, for instance, he got some soil and it poisoned his plants. So there was some kind of fertilizer or some kind of pesticide in there, and it killed all of his plants. I would like to show you these gardens. They're about half set up for the spring. Some of them are completely ready to start for the spring. But others I still have work to do. Now, as you see, there are cars streaming by. I want to remind you that I homestead on 1 acre in a small town. So I'm trying to provide food for my family on 1 acre in town. So this is my newest bed, and it's my Victory Garden bed. And I wanted to show you what it looks like. I filled it up with soil. There's some mulch over here. And all we used are 4x4s from Lowe's. And then I have run the outside with onions right there. And then I have a little bench and some more garden things over there. But this is my main garden that I'm gonna be starting this spring. And we have this second little garden. I'm not really sure how much sun it's going to get, so I'm not counting on it for food. I'm experimenting with it. It is in my food forest, which is a bit shadier than my other gardens. And so I'm gonna see how this works out. Now, what I wanted to show you here is at Lowe's they have these. Now these are, I think, 2x4s, 2x6s right here. But they have this awesome little, I guess, stone brick that you can get. And all you do is just put the 2x4s in the stone brick. So if you're not handy with tools, this is a great option for you. You could even make your raised bed taller by getting 2 of these and then doubling the wood if you wanted to make it taller. I don't personally need that right now, but this is what this little shade garden looks like right now. So this right here is my 10-bed garden system. I have 5 and 5. This is probably about 6 years old, and the wood is still lasting. Let me show you. We made this about, I think, 6 years ago, and we used wood and filled it up. My plan is to line everything out exactly the same. So it's gonna have, this is a bit confusing because one cattle panel is right here. Let me get to a bed that's set up the way I want it to set up. So all my beds will be set up like this. And they will have 2 T-posts and a cattle panel. And all I did, guys, is I zip tied it right here. Super easy, super simple. And like I said, I still have things to harvest in this bed. We are moving this wooden thing to another section of the yard so that all the beds will be exactly the same, and I will start square foot gardening in them, and I'm really excited about it. So that's a lot of things that I am doing to set myself up for success in the spring. I'm creating gardens, I am planning things out, I have good resources behind me. If you do all those things, you'll be that much more prepared and you'll have more success in the spring. And I wish you all the best and good luck. Happy gardening.